Hello class and welcome to today's lecture. In today's lecture we're going to be talking about talent management. So let's get started. Talent management refers to getting the right people with the right set of skills at the right time in the right place within the company. At the core of it, those are the four components of talent management. So let me repeat that. Having the right people with the right set of capabilities, and by capabilities we're referring to your KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, at the right time and in the right place within an organization. Now, there's a lot that goes into getting all four of those things done and done correctly, because you have recruiting, hiring new people, placement of folks, employee selection, employee training, all the things that we've talked about thus far up to this chapter, all are part of talent management. So we want to make sure we have the right people. We need to be able to evaluate the skills, know what skills go for what jobs, know what employees have what skills, and be able to combine them all in such a way that we have them working in the right positions at the right time in the right place within the organization. So I like to call that the four rights of talent management. Talent management is important because there's a impending retirement boom that's going to happen with the baby boomers. As they're aging out of working and they're hitting retirement age, we're going to see a lot of senior level positions that are going to become vacant, where people are going to need to staff those, and organizations are going to look to the younger generations for that. There's a shortage of younger people working and entering into the workforce because the baby boomer generation had fewer children. High school graduates are lacking a lot of verbal and communication skills, writing skills, as well as college students are weak in writing and leadership and critical thinking skills. These are common complaints from human resource recruiters. So when you're thinking about all these things combined, right, the sudden loss of leadership, the lack of accountability that's going on in corporate America, there's a very strong need for talent management, effectively managing the people within an organization to meet organizational goals. There are four key areas of talent management. So one is creating and maintaining an organizational culture that values people, so people know that they are important and that what they do is important. Two, identifying the future needs and developing individuals to fill those needs. So organizations should not just sit back and take a passive role when it comes to talent management and making sure they have the right people to work for the company. They should be proactive, go out, find those individuals, look at people within the company, train them, and get them ready for it to be the next generation of managers. Three, developing a pool of talented people who can supply future job needs. And four, establishing ways to conduct and manage activities to support talent development. These are the four key areas to successful talent management. So talent management within an organization has a pretty broad scope. And here are six components of the overall scope of what talent management does in the areas that it should touch within an organization. So target, identify the right jobs, competency models, assessment and career tracks, developing and sharing risk, talent pools, and high potential individuals. We're going to come back to high potential individuals a little bit later in the slide in this presentation, but it's important that we understand these are the six components that make up the full scope of talent management. We've already talked about talent pools and how organizations will very commonly collect the set of skills that employees have, input that information into a database, and as they're looking to fulfill vacancies within the organization, they will search that database to find people who already are prepared, who have the skills to operate in those positions. This slide really outlines the talent succession process, succession planning process. So let's talk about what is succession planning. Succession planning is the process of being prepared for a vacancy in a high value position within an organization. So if there's someone or position that is critical to the organization, what happens if the person occupying that position, something happened to them? They are no longer around for one reason or another. They could quit, they could die, they could leave for unexpected reasons, they could become incapacitated for a certain amount of time. And because of their key role to the organization, it could actually hurt organizational performance. When you have roles that are significant to the organization like that, it's imperative that you set up a succession plan. In other words, a set of actions and activities that would take place should that position become vacant. So you could put someone else in that position as quickly as possible. Perhaps the most popular succession plan that we know of as people in the United States would be that of the President of the United States. Should something happen to the President of the United States and he or she is no longer able to fulfill his or her role, then the Vice President takes over. Should something happen to the Vice President, then the Speaker of the House takes over. And it kind of goes down. So there's this well-defined succession plan when it comes to the President of the United States. And within corporations, it's no different. Now, you may decide that it's going to be someone within the company who steps up and takes that role, or your succession process could kick off an external search to fill the role as quickly as possible. Whatever it is that you choose for your succession plan to be, but for key positions, it's important that you're thought about that and that it's in place. Taking a look at this slide, you can see the succession planning process. So stage number one would be to understand what the overall strategy is for the company. 2, involve top management to get their feedback on the plan and how it should work and who should be in it and how it should. Assess key talent, so evaluate the people that are inside the company to see who may be the best person to fulfill the role. Then follow developmental practices. Okay, then monitor and evaluate. So then if something does happen, enact your succession plan. When it comes to identifying potential talent within organizations, this grid here could become quite useful. As you can see, we have 2 axes. The vertical axis is for employee potential. Horizontal axis is for employee performance. You have the low represented right here, high performance right here, and high potential right here. And what we're doing is we're simply mapping out employees according to their potential and performance. So those employees with poor performance, poor potential, really there's no potential for advancement. You may want to consider dismissing them. You see the action here would be dismiss. For employees with a high performance but very little potential, they've kind of maxed out where they are. You can just retain them or give them rewards to continue to help them improve their performance. For employees who have shown, very low performance but extremely high potential, those are people that you want to think about, should I coach them? Should we get them in a different job, somewhere where their talents could be a better fit for what they're doing and we could try to improve their performance? Then you have those that are in the middle. So their performance is average or potential is average. And, they would be people that you may want to consider for a lateral move. They're basically just meeting expectations. They're not doing anything above and beyond. They're not particularly special in either dimension. They're really just average. So you can try to think about ways to increase motivation for them to get them to move either with higher potential or higher performance. Then you have the employees who are both high on performance and high on potential. These are going to be your future leaders. So these are the guys that you want to give them stretch assignments. You want to set them up for promotions. You want to encourage them to execute, deliver upon their potential. And those are going to be the ones that you expect to be the next generation of leaders within the organization. Development refers to efforts to improve employees' abilities through training, by giving them special assignments, by taking any activities that you can to help further develop their skills. And this is a big part of talent management. So, and it ties directly into employee training, but all training does not necessarily mean that it has to be formal education, formal training. We're going to talk a little bit about mentorship and how that's a very important part of talent management and employee development. The bottom line here I'd like to stress is that employees should be focused on learning. They should always have a desire or drive to improve themselves. So the idea of lifelong learning is very important, in that people want to always embrace learning something new, adding to their skills throughout their entire life, and never become stagnant or accept that their skill level is sufficient and thereby stop growing. There are 4 components or 4 variables that affect leadership development. And these are items frequently used by organizations to cultivate the next generation of leaders. One would be modeling. This is where people, they walk the talk. They say we want a certain set of behaviors or principles to be exhibited, and they walk and they live that. They model that type of behavior. You have management mentoring. This is where you actually may have a formal mentoring program. We're trying to get people who are higher up in the organization to mentor individuals who are lower in the organization. Executive education. So this could be either formal or informal. It could be retreats that take place, but you're giving education to your executives. And then coaching. Coaching is kind of a one-on-one activity. Oftentimes it's informal, but you're giving employees advice and consultation how they can improve their standing within the organization and on assignments. In this slide here, we're taking a close look at the mentoring process. So over here, you have the less experienced manager. So this is the mentee. And over here, you have the more experienced manager, which is the mentor. And in the middle, we have kind of the stage of the mentoring relationship, how long it usually takes. And over here on the left, on the right, you can see what each party should be engaging in at various stages. So I would encourage you to strongly pause the video, read through this entire slide so you can understand the nature of the relationship, the mentor relationship between mentor and mentee, and understand how it starts and how it transforms itself. In brief summary, I'll tell you in the initiation stage, it's usually 6 to 12 months. Both individuals are kind of learning each other, they're feeling each other out. The mentee generally has a pretty strong admiration for the manager or the mentor, and they're willing to give them the respect and kind of submit to their authority or their advice. The manager recognizes the mentee as a person who has potential and a person who can grow and be successful, and they're coachable. This is a big part here. If the mentee is not coachable, then the relationship is not going to work. And what we mean by coachable is that the mentee has to be willing to listen to advice, follow advice, even if it's something that they don't understand. They have to be willing to follow through on the things that the mentor tells them to do, and to trust the guidance and leadership of the mentor in their relationship. Cultivation process is generally 2 to 5 years. This is where the less experienced manager, they're gaining a sense of confidence, they're developing their own style, their own way of operating, and the mentor is providing the mentee with challenging assignments. They're pushing them, they're coaching them. They may be providing some protection should the mentee make a mistake, and they're sponsoring and encouraging them to take on more challenging assignments. Between after year 5, you got 6 to 12 months. This is the beginning of the separation. So at this stage, the mentee can stand on his or her own 2 feet. They can make a lot of the same decisions, and they begin to have a bit more distant relationship between the mentor and the mentee. Okay, so that you can see the mentor begins to move away. They know where the person has reached a level of professional status that they can kind of handle their own, so they begin to move away. And the mentee begins to act more independently. They're not needing to call for advice quite as much, for example. And the last stage is redefinition. So this is where the mentee is now an experienced, seasoned professional. He or she can hold their own. They have their own style, and they really are a standalone professional. So what happens is that the mentor redefines the relationship with the mentee as peers, not necessarily as one person being superior to another or something along those lines, but really as peers, and recognizing that while they may have the same or differing opinions on various topics, their opinions are equally professional. Some common problems with management development are: 1, failing to conduct adequate needs analysis. So you're developing people in areas that they don't really need development, or areas that are not valuable to that employee. 2, trying out fads. May I tell you, there's always seems like there's a new book on management or some management style or technique that someone swears is the best thing since sliced bread. Oftentimes there's no research validation behind it. It's just someone's experiences, and they wrote a very charismatic book, and that's a bestseller, so everybody is now reading that book and trying those practices out. In general, stay away from fads. Stick with business advice that's proven and backed up by research. Number 3, substituting training instead of selecting the qualified individuals. I mentioned this on a previous lecture. It is always better to hire someone who's qualified, has the KSAs necessary to do the job, than to hire someone who has potential and then believe you're going to train them to be successful at the job. Research shows that the former always works out better than the latter. In general speaking, the former always works out better than the latter. And then 4th, failing to address organizational factors that result in encapsulated development. So in this scenario, what we're talking about here is that there's organizational factors that are influencing a person's development. They may either speed it up or take away from it, but if it needs to be addressed, so removing organizational barriers, then it's important that those get removed if you want to see people in the organization continue to develop and improve. That wraps it up for this lecture. If you have any questions, be sure to send me an email. Thank you very much and have a good day.